Right. I see all sorts of folks joining. Good morning. I see lots of familiar faces. Thank you for being on this morning. It is a very cold morning here in the northwest corner of Connecticut. Good morning, Karen. Hi, Lori Beth. Nice to see you on here. Good morning, Bobby. Hi, Jackie. Hi, Chris. Nice to see everybody. We'll give folks another minute or two as everybody rolls in, but we are here with a wonderful panel today to share successes across the state with you so you can learn from fellow colleagues and experts in the attendance arena. My name is Caroline Calhoun. I am a professional learning and attendance specialist at EdAdvance. In the northwest corner of the state, we are one of the 6 regional education service centers. I am joined here with my back-end partners at EdAdvance. We have Jaron Havel and Dahlia Assem, both supporting all things Talk Tuesday. Good morning, Jeannie. Nice to see you. And we are also joined, as always, by our partners at CSDE, Kari Sullivan-Custer and Jay Brown. Thank you both for being here. And we have a wonderful group of panelists joining us from Region 14, which is Bethlehem and Woodbury, and from Bridgeport Public Schools this morning. So we are excited to dive in. We also have colleagues joining us from Norwich to share some really exciting incentives they've been doing to share with you all as well. So we are going to go ahead and get rolling. As you join our Zoom, please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat, give a shout out, say hello to folks you may know on the call, and drop a little note about what you might be hoping to learn today about efforts to reduce chronic absenteeism. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide, please, Jaron. All right, we wanted to highlight for you this morning that really exciting CSD has just published, I think it was this past week, the new English Learner and Multilingual Learner Framework, which is now available. It's a really incredible resource that this serves as a foundation to build shared understanding, to establish all of these conditions that support high quality instruction and practices for our ever-growing student population. So we encourage you to check that out. It's a really wonderful resource with lots of rich information for you to explore. Next slide, please. We also wanted to give a shout out today to Principal Hannah Sam from Kingsbury Elementary School in our very own Waterbury, Connecticut. She recently presented on a national panel with the Campaign for Grade Level Reading and with Attendance Works. Many of you know folks at both of those organizations, and Principal Sam did an amazing job at this presentation. It has not been posted yet, the recording, but when it is, we've linked there where you can find it. And I know that Principal Sam knows many folks on this call and works really hard doing incredible work in Waterbury. So we're so excited for this and for you all to share in this work that she is doing. And I think Dahlia and Principal Sam are in the same cohort for graduate work. So all sorts of overlap in this small educator world here in Connecticut. So shout out to you, Principal Sam, and thank you so much for the hard work you're doing in Waterbury.
You know, Caroline, just a very quick sideline, talk about small world. In another life, way back when, I was a special ed teacher at Kingsbury Elementary in Waterbury. So I'll just put that out there. So great job, Kingsbury, still doing strong.
Oh, I love that. Thank you, Jay. Let's go to the next slide, Jaron. We wanted to highlight for you as well, as many of you are already aware, this year CSDE in collaboration with DCF started the new student support series, which is all focused on mental and behavioral health. There have been a number of excellent sessions thus far, and registration is now open for the upcoming offerings in December, January, and February. So please check those out. It's really excellent content with CSDE consultant Kate Bohannon at the helm. And in a really wonderful aspect of this, clinical staff can actually earn continuing education credit by attending these sessions. So feel free to share this far and wide, and hopefully you are finding these sessions useful. Next slide, please. As always, we have our Connecticut campaign with all sorts of materials available for folks to download, customize for their districts. We wanted to highlight one resource in particular this time of year, which is our When is Sick, Too Sick for School flyer. This is available in English and in Spanish, and just really helpful reminders for families as they navigate those decisions in the morning when they're figuring out if a child needs to see a doctor, if they have to stay home, if they can go to school. So check that out and download if you would like. Next slide, please. And the recent Marshall memo published on November 24th had an excellent article about how parents can act on a child's attendance. And in this Education Week article, the author really was just reporting on these key findings about an analysis of data around school attendance and how parents interact with their children, with the school system, with communications about attendance. And 4 findings I thought were worth sharing about notifying parents early in the year if there's a pattern. We know these are, common sense, helpful reminders, but the data shows us this over and over again. And one really specific piece from this study was that notifications that were sent on weekdays at around 8 a.m. or between 2 and 4 p.m. were the most effective in terms of reaching families. And then specificity was key. So saying that the child has been absent X number of days in a month was really helpful to get families to take action to help their children's attendance. And then conveying empathy. So communicating with compassion and empathy with our families as we send these attendance reminders can be a game changer. So specifying maybe if you need support with transportation or health, reaching out with those pieces in mind. So the article is linked there for you if you'd like to read more. And we are so happy to have on the call this morning Patrice Marandina. Next slide, please, Jaren, who is the coordinator of all strategic initiatives in Norwich Public Schools. And I believe her colleague Shannon Santini is also on the call, who is their attendance and family engagement coordinator. And I'm going to pass the baton to Patrice to share a little bit about the context of this wonderful attendance challenge video that they are going to share. Patrice.
Good morning. Thank you, Carolyn. And so happy to be a part of this presentation this morning. Talk Tuesday has been instrumental in me taking this position. I've been in this role for just about 14 months, and I don't think there's many Talk Tuesdays that I've had to miss. To give context to Teachers Memorial Middle School, it is a grade 6 through 8 building that is home to 398 students. At its worst rate of chronic absenteeism that we found in the 22-23 school year, 38% of our students were chronically absent in that building. The following year, the district decided to put into place attendance and family engagement coordinators at all 9 of our buildings. And in the middle of the 23-24 school year, we hired Shannon Santini to fill that role at Teachers. Now, Shannon is really the highlight of this video. She has a social services mindset. She puts people at the center of her work. She has tried and utilized resources and made changes and adjustments. She really is nearly an engineer of her position at Teachers Memorial. In this video, you will see our building leadership, Principal Edward Lavoie, Assistant Principal Kimberly Childress, and the star of the show is Assistant Principal Clay Hardman. Clay and Shannon greet students every morning in the foyer of Teachers Memorial, playing music, playing a ukulele, and welcoming them. They really are the greatest resource for kids. Now, and I will say Shannon takes every resource given to her, whether it's through Talk Tuesday or other places, but we know that the human element is what gets kids to school. So you will see all of our teachers in this video, you will see students utilized in this video, our SRO, and it really was a hit district-wide. And I had to share it with Kari and Carolyn and other members, and I'm happy to share it here. And I will add that as of today, the chronic absenteeism rate at Teachers is 11.8%. So going from 38 a few years ago to really monitoring where our students at and having the whole community talk about attendance is the goal.
This is the hair that hangs in the balance.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event. Let's get ready to rumble!
Nothing here.
Rise and shine, Miss Kaushal. It's time to go to school.
Teachers, the world needs you here.
Your presence is your power. Come to school and win this challenge. Every day we show up, we level up.
All right, we ran the numbers.
They say you got this.
Look, it says right here in chapter 6. You're right. It says the heroes showed up every day.
All roads lead to school. See you there.
We're on your team. Show up and shine.
Here's the deal. If you reach 95% attendance by December 19th, I will shave my head. Totally, completely bald. Shave! Shave! Shave!
Your mission is simple. Come to school. Show up on time. Support your grade level. Every day you are here makes a difference. Every day gets us closer to the moment.
The challenge is on. The Clippers are ready. Are you?
Oh my goodness, Patrice, this is so fantastic.
It makes me laugh every time. And the assistant principal, Kim, is now talking about if both Principal Lavoie and Assistant Principal Hardman end up with bald heads, they're going to take a Christmas card photo like she's the mom of her two sons in matching jammies. It's just, they're having fun. And that's really what Shannon brings to the team and the building. She knows, just how to build relationship and bring that joy into the school.
Well, kudos to all of you, and thank you so much for sharing the creativity, the fun, the joy. Is all such a huge part of the work we do. So thank you very much to you and your team, Patrice.
Thank you.
All right. I think we are passing it to Kari for some Q&A from the field.
Right. Well, that's a hard act to follow, that's for sure. So I'm Kari from Connecticut State Department of Education, and I have Ask CSDE FAQs from the field. So get ready to enter in the chat. This is something that came up when the October data came out last month, and we were analyzing all the data, and we're so proud to see all of our reductions in chronic absence across 80% of our schools and all of our subgroups. So wondering which student group has the highest chronic absence this past October. It was also the only group to increase when compared to last October. Which subgroup of students have the highest levels of chronic absence?
Kari, you want folks to drop their
yeah, if you could drop some your thoughts in the chat. Yep. So we've got special education, homeless education, English language. Yep. These are all groups that we struggle with and have very high chronic absence. But this past October, it was, if you could go next slide, it was our students who are unhomed, the students who are experiencing homelessness were the only group with an increase from October last year to October this year. We started the school year really strong, but I wanted to bring to your attention that this is a group we really need to be spending our time thinking about and analyzing that data and the root causes for not coming to school. So if you go to the next slide, I want to share the data itself, and it is pretty apparent that this group has really struggled with attendance. But you can see here, I also want to share in this data drop, like we saw a drop in all students, we saw a drop in high needs, L's, free and reduced price meals went down 3 percentage points. So we really started the school year strong. Except for that one group. So if you go to the next slide, it's really important to me that you're paying attention to this, close attention of the students experiencing homelessness, because they're growing. They have, barriers and pressures and unstable housing experience, as it says here, like frequent moves in school transitions, transportation challenges, shifting caregiver arrangements, stress and trauma. And, we know that our homeless population statewide is growing as well. And so we know there's a housing crisis. And so how is this impacting our students? And just on the next slide, I want to share just some things to consider when with these students. The first is to, with your school attendance teams and your district attendance teams, make sure your McKinney-Vento liaison is on the team. Maybe not every month, but you're coming and you're talking about this population, you're looking at their data, you're identifying who are these students. And how can schools better identify students who may qualify for support? I ask that, are you training your staff so that they know, how to identify students who may be struggling with houses? What are some of those signs? I know there's training available through McKinney-Vento for you. So review your attendance regularly at your school teams, identify those students who are struggling with housing, and see what kinds of supports they need. So, and then I put some links here. The Schoolhouse Connection, supporting attendance guidance just came out. It was a partnership with Attendance Works, and it's really well done. So it might be something you want to download and share with your attendance team. But please, I'm asking you to just pay attention to this group. It's really struggling with attendance. And I think that is, are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Kari. It is such an important group of our population here in Connecticut as we think about how to support everybody around attendance and engagement. So thank you for those resources and for highlighting that need. I think it's really important and helpful for districts when we consider this population of our families. So thank you for that. Let's go to our next slide, Jaren. We have, as always for you, our Connecticut Home Visit Hub is rocking and rolling with LEAP 101 trainings, as well as supplemental series that are happening. So check out the registration form. The next 101 training is in January, on January 14th. That should say 2026. I'm not in the mode yet of 2026, apparently. So coming soon, our colleague Nushet Black-Burke and her team of coaches are doing an amazing job at the hub. So we encourage you, again, that's open to anybody, whether you are a LEAP district or not. So on our next slide, we have, as always for you, a host of resources for you to dig into, reminders about policies, procedures, bright spots, how to reduce chronic absence across schools in the state. So feel free to dig into those if you are not yet familiar with those resources. Next slide, please. So before we dive into our panel this morning, we wanted to kind of ground ourselves in a couple big pieces of this work. Kari and I and our LEAP leadership team, as well as other colleagues who really work closely with us on attendance and engagement, whenever we are presenting in a district or at a conference, we like to ground ourselves in some of these basics when we think about the work. So for example, the systems and structures that go into everything to do with attendance and engagement, There are a lot of them, right? This isn't easy work. It's related to everything we do as educators. So when we think about the key ingredients to a comprehensive approach to attendance and engagement, we are thinking about having a district attendance team, having that school attendance team, both of which need to be meeting with fidelity. We're thinking about our data tracking and analysis, the systems we have to organize that data. We are keeping in mind equitable policies and procedures across a district, the MTSS, all those supports you have in place. We're thinking about strategic partnerships. How are we leveraging folks in our community to help with this work? And really approaching all of this through a mindset of shared accountability and continuous improvement. Kari loves to add and think about how, okay, even if we have all of those systems and structures in place, what is the secret sauce, so to speak? And really, it's that all hands on deck approach. It is a collective responsibility for this work and a mindset shift, which we'll talk more about in just a moment. But in case you have not accessed the Reducing Chronic Absence in Connecticut Schools Prevention and Intervention Guide, we have it linked there for you because it is the nuts and bolts of the work, the basics. So we encourage you to take a look at that. In addition to these structures and systems that have to be in place for successful work in this arena, on the next slide, let's just talk for a moment about the mindsets surrounding this work. Because the more we dig into this work, the more we realize that it's not just about shifting from punitive to supportive kind of mindset or lens through which we're approaching our families, our students, but it's more than that. It's also thinking about, are we being empathetic? So not just being sympathetic, but moving to an empathy-based approach. Are we being culturally humble and culturally responsive in this work? Are we thinking about those equitable policies we can put in place? And also, are we considering the ways in which we're approaching families, really shifting from a deficit-based to a strengths-based lens? I want to give a shout out to Dr. Gemma Joseph Lumpkin, who is in New Haven Public Schools. She collaborated really closely with Kari and I over the last several years, working on attendance in the district. And as we thought about mindsets, it really became clear to us as we dug in that it encompasses all of these pieces, not just moving from punitive to supportive. So we're grounding ourselves in this work with these two pieces right now, because the panelists that are going to be sharing their expertise with you momentarily have been selected essentially because when we compared data from October 2024 to October 2025, both of these districts stood out as really having some very nice gains in their attendance data over that year. So we wanted to highlight their work for you this morning. So if we go to the next slide, I'm very happy to introduce some colleagues to you. So we have Carly Rocha Reyes here, who is the Director of School Counseling and Partnerships from Bridgeport Public Schools. She is joined by her colleague, Dr. Demetrid Young, who is the Director of Social Work Services. So we will hear all about their good work happening in Bridgeport Public Schools. And we are also joined by a panel of experts from Region 14. Next slide, please, which encompasses Bethlehem and Woodbury here in the northwestern portion of the state. So we are joined by Dr. Taryn Fernandez, the Director of Teaching and Learning, Wendy Yatsenik, the principal at Bethlehem Elementary, Lisa Bing, school counselor at Bethlehem Elementary, Dr. Michael Kushless, who is the principal at Nonawag, and Declan Curtin, who is the assistant principal at Nonawag. So we're so excited to have all of you here with us this morning to share the good work happening across your districts. So we have 5 questions we're going to run through the panel. And for everybody on the call, feel free to drop your thinking in the chat, any questions that are bubbling up for you as you listen to this. We want this to be an interactive dialogue and really learn from our experts. And that includes you, all of our participants on the call. So let's go ahead and get started and go to our first question. All right, so we wanted to ask folks if you were to select the top 2 or 3 practices or what you might consider the must-dos that you feel like are driving your current success in reducing chronic absence, what would those be? So I am going to turn it first, I think, to Carly and her team to share your thinking around this question.
Thank you. So I think I have a slide around 2 or 3 months. So thank you. So I similar to the all hands on deck. This graphic just kind of shows you how attendance seeps into everything. And it's really important to do the foundational work around school climate, challenging behaviors, providing training, focusing on your LEAP, and how all of these different areas impact your attendance. And so with the all hands on deck theme, it's important to get a team together that can really support each of these individual areas in order to impact positively your attendance rates. And one specifically, Dr. Young is going to talk about is our school climate work.
Well, I want to piggyback off of what Carly just said. This is like a more macro view. The micro would be making a school a more welcoming place. When the kids show up, training that first person they see, like the secretary, the security guard, to smile, to say, thank you for coming back to school. Those are simple things that will get a kid welcomed back into that place. So I think that that's very important. And Carly talked about our school climate. All schools have developed their own school climate plan, and Carly and I worked with each school to fine tune that plan specifically to that school so that they can then utilize what they have in that school to make that school a more welcoming place for students.
Thank you, Carly. Thank you, Dr. Young. Can you all just give, I think folks on the call are familiar with Bridgeport. Can you just give us a sense of the scope and scale of your district in terms of numbers of schools, numbers of students? So when we're thinking big picture from this macro lens, what you all are working with on a daily basis.
So we have 35, Carly?
I think we have about just a little bit above 20,000 students.
20,000 students. But,
schools, sorry.
Yeah, schools. So 35 schools across the district. And each school is different. Each school has their own population, per se. So we go from some impoverished areas to some affluent areas. So each side of town has a different feel. That's why we tailored our school climate plans to meet the needs of each school. Each school is not created equal, so we had to create those plans for those particular schools.
And we're about a little over 20,000 students within our district. So we are a very large school district.
With multilingual students, yeah.
Great. Thank you. It's helpful. And I think just as we think about that in comparison to across the state of Connecticut, we are so diverse when it comes to our school districts and the numbers of students we're serving and the different feel. As you said, each school is not created equal. Everything is different. Dr. Taryn Fernandez is here from Region 14. I'd love to just pass the mic to her for a moment to share a little bit about what your district looks like in terms of numbers of schools, numbers of students, and think about how very different it is from Bridgeport Public Schools.
Thank you. I was actually thinking about that as you both were speaking. So we are a significantly smaller district. We are 4 schools. So we have 2 elementary schools, 1 high school, middle school, serving between 1,500 and 1,600 students at any given time. We do have a transition program. And then within our high school, we do have an alternative program, which will be mentioned as well as we're speaking. And even in a small district, in terms of, Bethlehem is rather rural, and then Woodbury is a little bit more suburban. So even within this small district, we have that difference as well. And then we also are an agri-science high school, so we do pull from 12 other sending districts, which includes some larger districts like Naugatuck, and some districts from the Valley and nearby as well. So it's a diverse district in terms of student populations, where they come from. And, Caroline, you mentioned the culturally responsive component of it. And I think that Lisa will probably address it with the Bethlehem piece. The rural aspect of things, we have to consider that as one of the cultural components as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Taryn. I think also it's so fascinating when you think about across Connecticut, all the variables and the diversity as a state, and then within each district, and then within each school. And when you have all these factors, such as, I think you said 12 sending districts, that can be so complicating too, right? When you think about logistics around attendance and engagement. So lots to consider. Let's go back one slide. Jaren, I think we're on, you're on it, Nanawag's must-dos, and I'm going to pass the mic to Declan Curtin, who is the AP at Nanawag, to share some of your must-dos from that secondary lens. And I think Dr. Kushless is there with you too. Good morning, Mike, and I believe it's your birthday. Happy birthday. Shout out to you.
Not true, but thank you.
Not true. Okay.
If I pretend I don't have one, I won't get older.
There you go. All right, I'll pass it to Declan.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us. Shout out to my people in Bridgeport. I spent 18 years at Central High School, and now I'm up here in the district that Taryn just described to you. And I can tell you, people are people, and relationships matter. And when it comes to attendance, really, it's about that relationship piece with the student that matters the most. And you'll see that throughout our slides as we get going. For us, everything originates from the data. Our superintendent basically lives this in the way that he presents to us all the time. He models it. So we make sure that we're doing that for our entire staff as well. For us, attendance really lies in our SST meetings every Friday. We are very consistent. Everyone who's in those meetings knows exactly what's going to come. There's no guessing what's on the agenda. The same documents are used every single week. And whether it's the new referrals, to following up on old referrals, to following our bubble kids, which are usually in the 8 to 12% with chronic absenteeism. But we do it every Friday, and we do it consistently. And I think that's a very important message for everybody, is that the process and the procedures and how you design things matters. Coming from Bridgeport, we were one of the first schools that used Ruler. We were involved with Yale for years down there. And every time that things went to the high school with PBIS, things usually didn't work as well. Handing out tickets and things like that to 17 and 18-year-olds sometimes doesn't work. But you do have to find what does work for our kids. And for us in high school, some of the motivators are like your parking privileges. Yes, they can be taken away. Your ability to go to the prom, field trip opportunities, attendance brackets, which you see down below. So we do a lot of carrots and sticks, but you definitely have to have the carrots. You have to be competitive. Someone asked me what the secret sauce is. And for me, it's often, being competitive and wanting to win and having that attitude that you give to your entire faculty as well as your students. And up here on the slide basically shows that, we did a March Madness bracket that ended up going into April because basketball now does that. And that was a 6-week process. And if you look at the attendance numbers, they're very high. And for many of you, March and April is a really good time because it's a straight run. And we find out that when the holidays come, often attendance is a lot less. You kind of, the percentages, unfortunately for chronic absenteeism, go up. But this is a really good time of year to bring it back and get those numbers under control. So those are some of our must-dos at Nanawag.
Thank you, Declan. And I think we're passing it to Lisa to hear about Bethlehem Elementary and what your must-dos are in your building.
So for us, it started, with gathering the school-wide data, understanding where our chronic absenteeism is lying and going from there to engage our staff to become part of the committee. We started an attendance committee just last November, reaching out to see who was interested in coming to, we hold monthly meetings, but then also developing, you see next the mentor program. So even if you can't, come to those monthly meetings or don't want to, developing a mentor program to incentivize the students. And again, like Declan said, and the others have said, relationships. So providing mentors for students who are, either already chronically absent or close to being chronically absent, an adult in the building to connect with who is specifically looking for you each day. Good morning, how are you? I'm glad you're here. And then, maybe I had a student last year who hadn't been in school for more than 14 days in a row since she had been in kindergarten as a second grader. So we took that and said, okay, 14 is the most days you've been in school. What can you get to? So setting that goal and inspiring a little, just self-competition. And then we had to do a lot of parent engagement too, onto just what is chronic absenteeism. There was worry about, oh, does this mean you're going to call DCF? We're like, no, we're not calling DCF. We're just trying to, have students be present, be here, be learning, be a part of the school community, and how chronic absenteeism can affect, their child's education and their learning. So those were places that we started.
Thank you, Lisa. And I love this point about parent engagement, family engagement. I think everybody on this call who's doing this work day in and day out, we can't really separate family engagement from the attendance work we're doing, as well as student engagement, right? It's all so interrelated and intertwined. I think my colleague Nushet Blackburk is on the call this morning, who is a fabulous resource for all things family engagement. And we are always talking with districts about the import of that as we do this work. So thank you for pointing that out, Lisa. Let's go to our second panel question. Next slide, please, Jaren. So for Bridgeport and Region 14, as you all have been thinking about your attendance systems this year, what structures or routines have you found to be really essential in making your work stronger and more consistent? I think that's a helpful lens for folks thinking about how they can improve. So let's pass it to our Bridgeport team first.
Thank you. So on the next slide, you'll see an outline of our district attendance team. So the first thing we did was we really just took a step back, did the Attendance Works district self-assessment, and understood what we needed to put into place for our district attendance team. So on the left, you'll see an example of our running agenda. We follow the same agenda every month. We have our December meeting tomorrow, so this is November's. But we always start with recognitions and celebrations. So we find small wins, sometimes big, but even small across our district, and we celebrate them. We invite administrators, LEAP home visitors, representatives from the schools in order to celebrate successes in their buildings. And then we give a LEAP update. We review why we're here and the protocol that we follow at our district attendance team meeting. We adapted the Connecticut State Department of Education had, back when we returned from COVID, they had a protocol for examining data. So we took that same protocol, we made modifications, and we implemented that in our district attendance team so that we're being intentional about the data that we're reviewing, and we're looking for, we're asking for feedback from the participants in order to make some changes or to implement new initiatives. So we review the data from a balcony view, then we review data from the school ground, for the ground view, which I'll talk about a little bit afterwards. We talk about Tier 1. We have a strong focus on Tier 1 this year, as we always should, but just again, taking a step back and reviewing our Tier 1. And then we talk about what's our new campaign? What's the new initiative? We like to try different things here because, there's not a one blanket approach to improving chronic absenteeism. So we have to try a lot of different strategies to reach a lot to reach as many students as possible. So this is just an outline of how we structure our district attendance team.
Kari, I see your hand.
I can't not say something about how impressed I am with Bridgeport's attendance team and the level of staff that are working on this together as a team. But one of the things that I really recognize that they do is they have bright spots, and they highlight and invite the principals of the schools that are making a difference, and then have them share among the team what's working for them so they can share with other schools. Just wanted to add that.
Thanks, Kari. On the next slide, you'll see our school-based attendance team. So what we did this year was we created a spreadsheet. So we ask every school-based attendance team, because as you know, we're a very large district and I'm one person. So although I am going out and attending different meetings, I can't be at all of them. But I do want feedback from all of them so that we can bring that back to the district level. So we developed a protocol and procedure manual for each school-based team. We provided them with training. We showed, made sure that they were aware of all the new reporting on Power School. And then the new part was that we created a spreadsheet where they document when the team met, any initiatives or strategies that they have found are working, and then any requests for support. So we're giving them that space to say, I could really use some extra support here. And what AI has been kind of helpful on is our 38 schools copying all of that information and being able to kind of summarize for us what are some of the common themes that we're seeing? What are some of the most requested resources from schools? And then bringing that back to the district level in order for us to make some change and be able to support the schools. We're launching a new analytics and insights dashboard on Power School. That's still in the works, but it has been launched. So each school has a dashboard that they can see right away where their chronic absenteeism is. And it drills down right to the specific students, I'm sorry. So they can group students by chronic absenteeism or by different reports for testing, and start to be able to even make some MTSS referrals directly through that platform. So it's just a great space for administrators and school counselors and support staff to view data in one comprehensive location. Providing those schools with attendance tiered supports and resources. And then a little bit later, you'll see the monthly newsletter that we share out to be able to respond to those requests, so that the school-based teams know that we're listening, we're reading, we understand what their needs are, and here's how the district is working to support you. And as Kari said, the special guests, I try to, if an administrator reaches out to me and says, I'm really struggling with how to withdraw a student after we follow due process, it's not really clear from the district level how we handle that. I invite them, come to the district attendance team meeting. That's something that a common theme that I'm hearing. I need you to present that to us as a team so that we can work together to develop a stronger process for you and for other schools. And so just being a little vulnerable and willing to invite people to the table to hear their concerns and work together to support them.
And Carly's not aware, but our new initiative is going to be Carly's going to cut her hair off if our attendance goes up. So thank you, Carly.
I love it. Thank you, Dr. Young. A little humor added in there. Yes, I know, Carly, we were laughing about Patrice's video and who was going to be volunteering to shave their head. So there you go. Thank you. Let's pass it next to Nonawag and then Bethlehem Elementary to hear about your structures and routines.
Well, I think we might ask our principal to shave his head, but obviously that's already done. We are at I can't even say the number right now, but yes, we are at 6.7% absenteeism, chronic absenteeism right now. 2 years ago, we were at hovering around 14. Last year, we were at 9.39. So that kind of tells you which way we're going. We do send monthly chronic absenteeism letters to parents. Of course, that leads to some difficult conversations that administration has to have. And sometimes those phone calls are not the most pleasant, but progress happens through difficult conversations. And, sometimes you learn about each other. And that's one thing as a school administrator you need to do is you need to listen. I mean, we were given 2 ears for a reason and one mouth. And I sometimes have to say that to myself because you have to hear the other side of the story because sometimes there is a story and it is valid. And I think through empathy, you learn about each other. And I think attendance gets better when there's a mutual understanding between all that you're on the same team. Like I said, our superintendent is all about the data. 2 years ago, he said to us, hopefully the guidance counselors are meeting with the students who are on the bubble 3 times a year. So SST made a document, an Excel document that required our guidance counselors to meet with the kids around the bubble 3 times a year about attendance. Obviously, you hope that moves the needle, things get better. But if it doesn't, then you bring in the administrators. And myself and Mike, we split up the group last year. It was about 42, 44 of them in March that were kind of on the bubble. And we had some interesting conversations. I learned that one of the kids who's in charge of our video game club was right on that border. And I said to him, well, listen, to me, you're kind of like an athlete. If you want to go to the club and you want to represent the school, you got to take care of attendance. He didn't miss any days after that. We found his hook. And I think it's important that you find hooks with these kids on an individual basis that are going to get them across the finish line. And most importantly, the picture at the bottom, we backward designed our plan so that we're not flying the plane as we move forward. I think it's very important for groups, organizations, schools to really take the time, make a committee, do what you need to do, but figure out where you want to be a year from now, where you want to be a year, 3 years from now, maybe 5 years from now. Work your way backwards, figure out what you're going to put in year one, and really come up with a plan and that you follow it. So those are some of our structures and routines that we've done at Nanawag.
Thank you. Let's go to Lisa to hear about Bethlehem.
Sorry about that. So our committee meets once a month, like I believe I said. As the committee chair, I do monitor the attendance every 2 weeks. So just running those Power School reports. We keep a spreadsheet for the building, monitoring anyone that has a 6% absenteeism or higher rate, including the school nurse. I have found to be really important because she knows who has been sick and who has not. And so I check in with her at least every 2 weeks. One of the things too that, I'm sure to do, and Sue, our school nurse, will even call me if I, see the attendance report that just comes out daily from the secretary, just making sure to really read that and see who is absent in the building. And then, I notice if it's a student, the same student 2-3 days in a row, and, checking in with either the teacher or the nurse at that point so that it doesn't get too far. So to see what's going on. And then at those monthly committee meetings, we review the data with everyone that's there. We have a variety of special education teachers, general education teachers, our school principal, our school nurse. And so we see what's going on. Have we seen a spike with a particular student, maybe that we haven't identified? And so does that student need a mentor now? Or is a student, we have students that were chronically absent last year who have perfect attendance this year, which is amazing. And, we're celebrating as well. But so we talk about weaning them off of that mentor program then, do they need the daily check-ins? Can we slow release them? One of the things that we've done school-wide is, you see the little clip art there, is the teachers all have 2 signs on their doors. One says like, we all flew in on time. And then the other, we're all here today. And so, those are celebrations. The teachers can put those up so that as, non-classroom teachers are walking around the building, if they pop in, they can say, oh, it's great that you're all here today, or I'm so glad that everyone was on time, to just recognize the classrooms as well. So, like an individual level, classroom level. And at the end of each week, we give a shout out to the top 3 classes with the highest attendance percentage. And at the end of the month, then the class with the highest attendance percentage receives an ice cream party, courtesy of our principal. So that's a nice class incentive as well, so that we're not just focusing on the students who are, chronically absent, but celebrating those that are here as well. And then the last bullet point there is, we're setting specific goals with the chronically absent and those bubble students so that they're tailored to what's going on with them. It's not just everybody has the same goal, because everybody's issue might be different. We've actually uncovered through looking at our data that a lot of our chronic absenteeism is honestly due to family vacations. It's a lot cheaper to fly or do a vacation when it's not, the April break week, or, they can go Wednesday to Tuesday instead of, and so we've done just a lot of, again, parent education regarding, we understand, and, if you can avoid it, great. And if you can't, then obviously there's nothing we can do about it. But, we just point out that, your student was sick maybe 2 weeks because they had the flu, and then you took a week vacation, and, boom, all of a sudden you're at 15 days out of school. So those things really make an impact.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And I think all of us on this call, as we work, it's always that balancing act, right? Of recognizing and understanding different priorities from that family lens about when it might be best for a family to take a trip or a vacation, and how they're looking at all of those different things. But the parent education piece, that relationship communication is so important. Let's go to our next question. We wanted just to check in with districts, with you two in particular, about what have you learned isn't really moving the needle as much as you might have expected, and therefore what have you intentionally stopped doing or scaled back so you can focus on what truly works. So let's go to Carly and Dr. Young first.
I think what doesn't work, I don't think I have a slide for this one, is just to review the data, just to review the data. There has to be outcomes from that work, and you have to show the schools and the school-based attendance teams that you are being intentional with that data, and that you are, as a district, providing that support to them. And there are always going to be hurdles, or there are always going to be roadblocks, or people at the table that say things like, well, this is just the way it is. It's, there's nothing more that we can be doing. But I think you have to keep trying, and you have to be creative. And sometimes you're not going to roll out a perfect initiative, or not everyone's going to agree with it. But sometimes it's just about bringing attention to attendance, whether it's perfect or not. And that the conversation around attendance continues, and that even if they're not agreeing with the initiative, they're still talking about attendance. And so, just continue the work. Jump over the roadblocks and try new things, try new creative things.
What doesn't move the needle also is they should mentality. And I'm talking about the parents now. So people think they should be bringing their kids to school, blaming the parents for it. They should be bringing them on time. They should be, instead of what can we do as a team or a school to help the parents. So I think that we need to get rid of that they should mentality. And we're working on that throughout the district.
Thank you, Dr. Young, so much. That's such a great point. Let's hear from Nonawag and Bethlehem. What have you shifted away from that really isn't working?
Yeah, so negative cultures and continuous information that is negative, we found doesn't move the needle. So our monthly letters that go out, we make sure that all our social workers, our counselors and administrators see those letters, because sometimes behind those names, as we said before, is a story. And we pull those letters all the time if it is not going to be productive to send it. We know our families, we know our kids, and we know what's going on with them at certain times of year. So it's important to personalize it and make sure that we're doing the best thing for them. So negative doesn't work. If the absences are excessive, we use other means like SST to try to bring them back to the table and change their attendance. And you need to have a positive feedback at all times and hope with the messaging. High school, we are a credit-bearing institution, so you can lose credit. That's pretty significant. It's not like you're going to get passed on from 4th to 5th to 6th to 7th, 8th grade. And with that, we're giving all our kids what we call seat time if they are missing a lot of class. So, for instance, if you want to get your credit back and you're over the number of absences, we'll let you come in and do an hour and a half to get an hour and a half back of that classroom time that you missed. Because for us, it's about the teaching and the learning. And at the end of the day, that's what we're here for. We want them to get that. So up until June, we're always going to be giving kids pretty much, even sometimes the week before graduation, it's, you can do it. There's always hope. There's always a chance. And all our written contracts basically have like a get out of jail free card if you put the work in and meet us halfway. So it's important to have that hope with all of the messaging that we give to our students.
Thank you, Declan. Let's go to Lisa.
So similarly, we reduced the parent letters that we were sending out. We found them to be a little off-putting. Even it was kind of like no matter how we changed the wording and tried not to be, confrontational in any way, just, again, trying to raise awareness that your child has been absent this many days. So we reduced the threshold at which we send those letters. So if a student is at 8% chronic absenteeism or higher, we will send them. But then also making sure that we're communicating not just through the letters, but through phone calls and or meetings. One of the things we did last year, my principal, Wendy Adsenik, and I, we set up either a video call or a phone call with all of the families that were at 8% or higher at that time. And it was quite a few. It took us about a day and a half to get through all of the meetings. And a lot of it, again, was just that parent education piece, not pointing out, like Dr. Young said, not, saying, well, you should be doing this, you should be doing that, but, what can we do to help your child be in school more often? What is going on? Is there something that we can help with? Is transportation an issue? Are they missing the bus? And seeing what we can do there. A lot of the families received it well, a few did not. And so again, knowing who wants a letter and who doesn't, so to speak, and making sure that we're not, kind of harping on the same people all the time who are already a little turned off by the idea of addressing their students' absenteeism.
Thank you, Lisa.
Caroline, if I could just clarify, I just want to clarify that the high school component with the absences, we're not adjusting daily absences based on seat time, so it's not impacting our chronic absenteeism number. It's specifically to encourage students to continue to return, hopefully lower that over time, and then award credit. So I just want to make sure people aren't thinking we're like rigging our numbers in any way.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah.
So I know that for a lot of the folks Kari and I work with across the state, everybody is always really focused on how do we move the needle at the secondary level. Let's go to our next slide. So for this question, we really wanted to dig into this idea that the secondary grade band can be the most challenging. So we're wondering for both Bridgeport and Region 14, what have you implemented at the secondary level specifically that you might have found to be most helpful? So let's go to Carly and Dr. Young.
So I think for the secondary level, the LEAP home visits have been really helpful, and making sure that the LEAP home visitors assigned to those schools are work well with the secondary population, that they're comfortable working with them, that they have experience. We've made some great connections with some of our new LEAP home visitors and our large comprehensive high schools, and they have really been out there in their homes working very diligently to help bring back some of those schools. I think it's also looking at that LEAP home visiting log entries with our secondary population, because we're finding a lot recently that they're working. A lot of our high school students are working, and that they are reporting back that they need to work, when that work is the priority. And so now we have to just pivot, right? And how can we use that information to make some productive changes here in the district? And then on the next slide, you'll see a 21-day challenge that it was one of those initiatives that we're getting ready to leave for Thanksgiving break. And we know that this is a critical time. We celebrated so hard that our attendance was doing really well, but we're also very aware that this is when we really need to put in the work. The work has just begun. It's cold. Our high schoolers are walking to school, a majority of them up almost 2 miles to school. So how do we have to incentivize. How do we give them a little incentive as well, and celebrate their success? And so there's 2 quick, short little videos that we shared across the district on all of our social medias. And it was just a fun way to bring more awareness to attendance.
ASAP, right up from my gut, and that's a life tag. Walk inside the booth, I just talk. ASAP, right up from my gut, and that's a life tag. Walk inside the booth, I just talk, I don't write raps. ASAP, right up from my gut, and that's a life tag. Walk inside the booth, I just talk.
Morning,
love it.
and I showed up. So far that I showed up to school today, you should too. Attendance matters.
I showed up for school today.
Buenos días, tenemos que venir por la mañana.
Good morning, Harding High School. We showed up. We're here at Harding High School, and I showed up.
Morning. I'm at Harding High School, and I showed up. Good morning. We're live at Harding High School, and I showed up.
Good morning. I'm here at Harding High School, and I showed up.
This is we're in Harding High School, and the first step to success is showing up.
So we launched our hashtag show up, and so Bridgeport shows up, and so we we're asking students to come to school every day. Right, unrealistic for some. Some are going to get sick, and it's unavoidable. But it's just a way, again, who can show up for as many days as possible. Enter into a raffle. We have a little over 9,000 students who have showed up every day since the beginning of the challenge, and we'll celebrate that and just continue to find fun and creative ways. And the next slide is on the lower level. We're talking about attendance as a temperature. How high is your attendance temperature? Just giving another frame for us to talk to the students, to give them kind of a perspective of, if you're absent, your temperature is going to start getting higher. What are some things we need to do to lower your temperature? What are some barriers? What's happening? Why is your temperature so high? Temperature check, maybe a classroom. Let's take a temperature check. Where is our attendance for today? Again, just fun, creative ways to create some dialogue to bring more awareness to attendance.
I'm so excited because those kids in the video, I haven't seen the video yet, were my former students when I worked at Harding High School. And at Harding, on the micro level, we included all of the stakeholders in the building. Like I was talking about earlier, the security guard will say, "Where have you been? We missed you." You go into the lunchroom, the person in the lunchroom would say, "Where have you been? We miss you," kind of thing. So all hands on deck to show that school climate is welcoming to that student, and that in that school level. So a lot of kids were eager to come back to school and see that happy face. So we wanted to create that kind of climate across the district.
Thank you, Dr. Young. I do just want to acknowledge, I know we're at 11:01, and so if folks are having to hop off, no problem. We just have a couple more quick things to share. So if you can stick with us, feel free. We'll send out the recording if you can't. So let's go to Nanawag just to hear about that secondary level and what you have to share.
Yeah, I'll be expeditious because some of this has already been said, but the first one is very important. So go. That's like our alternative school that we made probably about 3 years ago with that advance. And kids who did not want to come to school were struggling. We had to build a school within a school to welcome them. And it's a very welcoming environment. There's only 6 to 8 students at one time. That's really up there. But it is very nurturing. The person that we hired is nurturing. And then the kids come to school. And there's some amazing success stories that we have had up there due to the implementation of that program. And also down at the bottom, I'll skip to incentivizing our 4 A's. The Field of Little Dreams, if you build it, they will come. Our student body is crazy when it comes to sports and athletics and academics, the arts, and our agri-science program. They are completely bought in. And I think when kids have that hook that we talked about, they come to school. And for us, it's about finding each student's hook. And most of them fall under those 4 A's. And we keep preaching that over and over and over on the positive side to get the kids here. Because honestly, if your place of work is a positive place, you're going to love coming. All right. It's the same for students. And that's basically our model as we go forth. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last question we had for folks as we think about this time of year in particular is if you might be a district that's struggling and if you could just pick a couple of things to focus on between now and January, what might those be? So last comments from our panelists. Go ahead, Carly.
So 2 quick things. My 2 slides are continue with the attendance campaigns. Our communication team is small communication team is a part of our district attendance team meetings. So they come, they listen, they take on initiatives themselves. They're constantly communicating to our district as a whole, to parents, to community members, to students, positive messaging about attendance. And the next thing is the newsletter. Be intentional about what you're hearing. putting strategies together, interventions to share with school-based teams, and celebrate successes and wins through a clear communication to school-based attendance teams.
Thank you, Carly. Declan.
Oh, good morning. I'm actually going to speak real quick.
Oh, sure.
I think for us, really just getting exciting about rewarding and incentivizing students, really, again, finding ways for them to get excited about it. And so, I mean, we do simple gift cards every week of kids who have had perfect attendance. And we say it's a random raffle, but it's really not. We look at our kids who have really struggled, and we try to reward the kids, maybe who don't get the awards for the academics and the athletics all the time. And so trying to find that, I think, is really important. Really sitting down now. I mean, again, I know we don't have a ton of time before the holiday break, but be sitting down with the committee and saying, what does it look like for us? And I think that was an important step for us, whether it's through SST or some other group, just bringing together some counselors or administrators who are really excited. If you don't have that formalized process for us, that's where it started with us. And it really starts with the message of hope. I love in Bridgeport, your guys' Instagram posts. I don't know who your director is for Instagram. I am not anywhere near that. But that inspires me. And I think it just shows that we can do better in our posts, as well. And, one of the things that we looked at that a couple of years ago was looking at our power school and going in, and just looking at what our attendance codes are, how we're using our attendance codes. And what those attendance codes actually mean. So it might not be power school that you use, but for us, we realized we had a couple of attendance codes, for example, field trips that was marking students as field trips, but were marking students absent. So these were kids that were in school on a field trip, but they were getting marked absent, and that was hurting us. And so just going into the Power School Assist, working with your director of technology, and looking at some of the codes and how they're actually coded, because maybe you'll find that some of them aren't marking students the way you wanted to. And so I think with some of those things, really, those could be some really high leverage strategies that you can do in the next month or so to really kind of get districts on the right track.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Kushlis. And let's just go to our next slide, Jaren. And I want to thank everyone for hanging in with us. And thank you so much to all of our presenters and panelists. It's really helpful to hear all of the amazing work that's happening on the ground. And I hope that our participants have taken some ideas that you can go and implement concrete strategies right away in your districts as you tackle this challenging time of year. Also, a special shout out. Thank you, Declan Curtin is my husband. So all of the work that you're doing in Region 14, he's stuck listening to me about attendance and engagement all the time. So their numbers better look good.
I want to mute you.
So, thank you all. Thank you so much, Carly and Dr. Young. We appreciate having everybody here. We look forward to seeing everyone in the new year, January 13th, conversation with Dr. Elizabeth Agro-Rade, who is an educator and author, to share all about how to engage students through personal interest projects. So wishing everybody a healthy, happy, safe holiday season, winter break. I hope everybody can find moments of relaxation and rest and peace. And we look forward to seeing you in January 2026. Thank you all so much for being here. Take care.